Hello and welcome to a special podcast for the eShopperReviews 2022 Game Awards. I'm Jen Ip.
And I'm Jake McNeil.
And this week, we'll be revealing the finalists and winners for awards in various categories.
Before continuing, I want to apologize if my voice sounds off. I've been sick recently and we're recording these as I'm still recovering. Also, we're recording with heavy weather coming in and out, so please just bear with us here. Thank you.
Alright, so today is day 3 of the awards, and we will be looking at Dubious Honors for games on the Nintendo Switch in 2022. What do you mean by dubious honors?
I mean that if game companies actually cared about these awards, today's awards would be the ones that no game company would want. They would be mortified at receiving. So these are all the bad awards. These are the awards for the companies that have done the worst stuff in one way or another.
Oh, the first one's interesting.
Oh, well, let's just go right into the first one then.
The first one is Worst Microtransactions.
So microtransactions covers kind of a wide range. Basically, I look at a bunch of criteria when deciding these. Is it a game that's aimed squarely at kids and they're trying to get money out of kids? Is it a game where the game is made worse because of the microtransactions? Is it a game where it's particularly predatory or disgusting about how it goes about using them? That kind of thing.
All right, so who are the runner-ups for Worst Microtransactions?
The runners-up for Worst Microtransactions are TurboShot, Sonic Origins, Overwatch 2, Guns at Dawn Arena, and Guardian Tales. You looked kind of surprised at seeing some of these on the list.
Yeah, because you spoke really highly of Guardian Tales, didn't you?
Yes, I really like the game, but it also uses weight mechanics, and those are one of the more disgusting kinds of microtransactions as far as I'm concerned. Guns at Dawn Arena really should be a free-to-play game, given the way it uses its microtransactions, and again, weight mechanics. Mm-hmm. But it's actually a game that costs a couple of bucks, which makes no sense to me. Overwatch 2 you are well familiar with, but basically, they replaced their loot boxes, which was already kind of meh, with even...
something worse.
Yeah. Sonic Origins is almost absurd in the way that they tried to get more money out of this package, because it is a full-price $40 game with just 4 classic 20, 30-year-old games, and yet they still tried to add in extra microtransactions for, like, if you want a better-looking main menu or something. It is really pathetic. And TurboShot, man, as much as I like TurboShot, that game uses pay-to-win mechanics, which are also pretty despicable.
Yeah. Microtransactions, they're great, aren't they?
Yes.
So great.
However, none of those were my choice for the worst microtransactions of 2022.
So who was the worst?
The winner, if we can call it that, for worst microtransactions on Nintendo Switch in 2022 is Chocobo GP.
Oh, we've heard a lot about this one.
So, Chocobo GP combines a few different elements that we've discussed here. The main thing that gets to me is whenever a game targets children with its microtransactions, but also it's a full-priced game for children, and they still want to try and nickel and dime the kids anyway. Mm-hmm. But this is one where the microtransactions actually made the game worse. If it wasn't for the microtransactions, this would have been a pretty solid kart racer. I mean, I don't know that it would have been able to compete with the likes of Mario Kart, but it would have been a good alternative for people looking for something a little different. Mm-hmm. And the microtransactions turned it from something that, this might be something worth looking into, well, why don't I just play Mario Kart, which is right over here? Mm-hmm. Why would you subject yourself to that? To the point where not only it made the game worse, but within the span of 1 year, Square Enix was forced to give up on the thing entirely and say, okay, fine, we're pulling the microtransactions out of the game. Of course, that doesn't make the game better, because you still have all of the adjustments to the balancing and all of that made for the sake of those microtransactions. You're still going to have to do a lot of grinding to unlock stuff in the game. And so it's like, This was a case where the microtransactions were unwarranted, unnecessary, ugly, made the game worse, and even now that they're gone, are still making the game worse.
Next up is most overrated.
Most overrated, like most underrated that I did a few days ago, is a category where I look at Metacritic scores and say, okay, Metacritic gave the game this meta score or an aggregate score of different reviewers. Which of these scores do I believe are way higher than they should be?
So, who are the runner-ups?
The runners up for most overrated are...
Why are you pausing?
That's it, I just told you.
Really?
Yeah, there are no runners up in this category. There was only one game this year that I felt like the Metacritic score was so off base that it deserved to be in this category. Others, there were a few that I thought were maybe a little bit inflated over what they should be, but not really that far off base. It has to tell you something that there was only one game this year that I really felt was in a league of its own when it came to just how overrated it was.
Okay, and what is it?
The winner for most overrated is 2 Point Campus, which got a Metacritic score of 87. To give you an idea, This makes 2 Point Campus one of the top 20 highest rated games on Nintendo Switch this year. This puts it over Mario + Rabbids Sparks of Hope, Bayonetta 3, and Kirby and the Forgotten Land. That is crazy!
I'd have to agree with you on that.
I don't think it's a bad game. It's okay. But it also felt like it was kind of retreading some of the same ground as 2 Point Hospital. Mm-hmm. And it didn't really fix any of the major problems that I felt that 2 Point Hospital had. So I thought it was okay. But to rate it as highly as it was just seemed outrageous to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, onward to the next category. Yes. Laziest Copycat.
This category has kind of transformed over the years that I've been using it. It started out as an award that I would give to games that were clearly just copying the formula of some other game, or they were trying to copy its style or gameplay because they were just shameless and trying to latch onto that game's popularity. However, over the years, I've noticed that this award often ends up going more toward a game that just copied its predecessors so closely that it's like, I'm just playing the same game. Or where there's no reason for this game to exist because the basic, what it is, already exists in another game.
So who are the runner-ups then?
Well, we have two runners-up, and they're actually kind of both related to one another. And that is Capcom Arcade's Second Stadium and Capcom Fighting Collection. These games were announced within a few months of each other, and wouldn't you know it, the overwhelming majority of the games in both of these collections are the same. Mm. You could easily look at these and go, well, why would I get both of them? Well, the reason why is because a few of the games in each of these collections are unique. Just enough to make you go, well, if I want to play these unique Darkstalkers games and Red Earth, I guess I'd better get the Capcom Fighting Collection. And if I want to get, this handful of other games that aren't fighting games, I guess maybe I'd better get Arcade's Second Stadium. It was really kind of consumer unfriendly way to get people to buy two games where the majority of the content was exactly the same. It's kind of gross.
Was that the only one?
That was the only runner-up.
Okay, so who won the award?
The winner for Laziest Copycat is Overwatch 2.
Yeah. Wholeheartedly agree.
I knew the moment I chose this for the award that you would be right on board with me there, Jen.
Yep.
Like I said in my review for Overwatch 2, this is basically an update to Overwatch. So much so that they didn't even bother to make it a separate release. They updated your copy of Overwatch so it became Overwatch 2. It is literally impossible to play the original Overwatch because Overwatch 2 exists now and they decided to just kick Overwatch 1 out. Now, there are differences between the two, like they changed the number of players that are in your team
from 6 to 5.
Yeah. And they made a few other minor changes throughout. They rebalanced the characters and all of that. But really, if they were going to do all of that could have been done in an update to the original game. Or if they really felt like this made it a significantly different game, they could have made it a second release so that people could still play the original game if they wanted to. The way they went about this, it's like they knew that it wasn't really a sequel, but they still wanted to give it that sequel hype. So they plastered a 2 at the end of it and said, screw it. People might not like it, but they're going to have to live with it.
Worst port / remake.
So
self-explanatory, I think.
More or less, yeah. Usually this is the case when a game hasn't been properly optimized for Nintendo Switch, or the controls aren't working, or it's buggy, or there's something else where the original game was okay or didn't have this issue, but then in the transition in Nintendo Switch, it became very much worse due to that transition.
And the runner-ups are?
And the runners-up are Pendula Swing, Chex Quest, Chrono Cross Radical Dreamers Edition, Fall Guys, and No Man's Sky.
I am so sad that Fall Guys and No Man's Sky made that list.
I mean, those are 2 good games, and they're still good on Nintendo Switch, but they are also very noticeably worse on Switch. Fall Guys, the frame rates for the character animations are absurdly choppy. Like, people are complaining about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but I'd say that the characters in this are actually worse in terms of how slow their frame rate animations become. And I understand there's like 100 characters on screen, but they're also pretty simple looking characters, and it just did not need to be this choppy and ugly. And as for No Man's Sky, while I agree that it is a wonder that it even works on Nintendo Switch, I can't ignore the fact that the frame rates are all messed up. It is really janky looking, all kinds of little glitches and stuff. It's still a great game. And if your only option is to play the Nintendo Switch version, I still recommend you play it. But you are absolutely getting the worst version of the game on Nintendo Switch.
So who won the category of worst port / remake?
So the winner for worst port or remake goes to Crunchyroll.
The video streaming service?
Yes! I didn't say this award had to go to a game. Now, it's already a bit odd that Crunchyroll would be coming to the Nintendo Switch this late into the system's life. We're 5-6 years into the Switch's life now?
Pretty far in, yeah.
But you know what? That's fine. Hey, the more the merrier. And if there's a new option to stream videos on the Switch, hey, awesome. I would welcome that. The problem is, even though they had 5 years to work on this thing and get it right, and even though Crunchyroll is on, I believe, every other modern gaming platform, for some reason, it's the glitchiest streaming app I have ever used. I cannot get this thing to function properly for the life of me, and it aims for the most bare bones, basic functionality that you could expect from a streaming app, and still fails absolutely miserably. It was by far the worst port of anything that I played on Nintendo Switch this year.
On to the most overpriced category.
Again, on day 1, I had a category for the best value. This is like the opposite. This is the worst value. This is, why is this so expensive for what I get?
And the runner-ups are?
The runners-up are Farm Tycoon at $20.
Ooh.
Faith and Shield Tower Defense Space Wars Game 2022 at $10. Chex Quest at $5. Trivia for Dummies at $10. And Sonic Origins at $40. You look like you're kind of surprised at some of these.
I'm surprised that you included a $5 game.
So here's the thing. Chex Quest is free on PC.
Oh.
And on top of that, it's a promotional game. It's called Chex Quest because it is promoting the Chex cereal brand.
Oh my god.
So, yeah, for this game to basically be advertising in, like, not even thinly veiled advertising, and for it to be a port of a free game, for them to be like, no, you'll pay $5 for it on this console. No, that's absurd.
I can't believe you paid for it.
Hey, I reviewed it. I'm doing this for you guys. I'm taking the hit for you.
Okay, who won most overpriced?
The winner for most overpriced game on Nintendo Switch in 2022 is Vaziel Saga XX at $34. Vaziel Saga, if you look at screenshots for the game, you already might be wondering why this game that looks so bland and ugly and archaic would cost $34, but that's not even the half of it. The other thing is, Vaziel Saga XX goes at great lengths on its Nintendo page to kind of hide, to shuffle off to the very end of the little profile. You have to actually click to read the whole thing, and it's down at the very end, the fact that they haven't bothered to localize this game. It is still entirely in Japanese. And despite the fact that they haven't bothered to localize it, that it looks ugly and archaic, they're still going to be charging you $34. That's ridiculous.
That is pretty bad.
It would be a stretch to say this game looks like it's worth $34, even if they'd bothered to go through the bare minimum of bringing it over for Western audiences. But they couldn't even be bothered to do that. So I'm saying, yeah, this is by far the most overpriced game on the list. And just to be clear, Farm Tycoon and Faith and Shield are also both on this list because they are literally unplayable. They have bugs or design flaws that make it so you can't even play them. But at the very least, you could theoretically say that the developer behind those games was just lazy and didn't bother to test them. In the case of Vaziel Saga XX, they knew what they were doing, because they did put that little warning at the end of the profile of the game saying it's in Japanese. They just didn't care. Really despicable.
The "why is this taking so much space on my memory card" award.
Probably you're seeing a pattern now. A lot of these awards mirror the awards that were on the first day, where on the first day I had an award for games that take up very little space compared to what they are. This is the opposite. These are games where they should not be taking up anywhere near the amount of space that they are taking up on your memory card.
And the runner-ups are?
The runners-up are Dr. Hospital Hypochondriac Simulator at 713 megabytes.
Yikes.
For a bunch of still frame images and bland music.
Robbie's
Adventure at 835 megabytes. Chex Quest at 2.5 gigabytes.
What?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And A Little to the Left at 1.4 gigabytes.
And the winner?
The winner of the "Why is this taking up so much space on my memory card" award goes to Sonic Origins at 3.6 gigabytes.
That I can understand.
Just to give you an idea, this compilation has 4-ish games in it. I say 4-ish because Sonic 3 and Knuckles could be considered 2 games or 1 combined game. Basically, it has 4 or 5 games in the collection. Of the games that are included here, the one that was the biggest in its original release was easily Sonic CD, which had a file size of 21 megabytes. This package inflates the collective file size of all of these games over 100 times what they originally were. Now, granted, it adds in some cute little extra videos and stuff, but number one, those videos are completely unnecessary. I don't think anyone bought this collection because, I can see some new videos where it's a brief introduction to the game. Yeah, no. But even if that was the case, even if you're like, no, I absolutely need to see some intro videos to these games, 3.6 gigabytes? You do not need that much space to play a few brief videos. It's silly. Even if you add in all the remixed music, all the extra content, there is absolutely no reason for this game to be this massive.
Next up is most disappointing.
Yep, these would be the games where, man, I had higher hopes for these. They had a really good concept, or, I really liked previous games, or, something like that. And for one reason or another, they just did not live up to their potential.
So, the runner-ups?
The runners-up for most disappointing are Gotta Protector's Card of Darkness, A Little to the Left, Chrono Cross, the Radical Dreamers Edition, Trivia for Dummies, and Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet.
Okay, and the winner?
I'm not even going to talk about it. No?
Nope.
No? All right. You already know why all of these are disappointing?
Yep.
Okay. All right, well, I guess we'll get on to the winner then. The winner for most disappointing game on Nintendo Switch in 2022 is Run Box Run. You saw me playing this one for a bit. I was playing this one with Sin.
Oh, yes.
And it's a really simple platformer and not a very good platformer. The reason why it was so disappointing is the lineage this game carries with it. This game is from the developer Atui. Atui previously worked on the Mutant Mud series and Xeodrifter, which are two excellent platformers. So why they would be mucking about with this terrible platformer, it's like they are capable of way better than this. I'm honestly surprised they're not embarrassed to have their name attached to this, given that they are capable of so very much more.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was honestly shocked to see that a developer this good put out a game this terrible.
Okay. Next category is Nintendo's Biggest Blunder, the newest award for 2022.
On this day, yes.
Yeah.
Nintendo frequently makes a lot of questionable decisions or outright terrible ones. And I felt like, especially after some of the things that they did this year, it's time to start putting a spotlight on that and pointing out all of the dumb stuff that they've done or all the terrible stuff that they've done. So that's what this list is.
So what are the runner-ups then?
The runners-up for Nintendo's biggest blunder in 2022 are allegations of Nintendo contractor abuse, Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet clearly rushed to release,
Yep.
What the Heck Happened to Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, and Nintendo Switch's age and underpowered hardware is really starting to show. So, before moving on to the worst in this category, I feel like I need to give special attention to one of these. Allegations of Nintendo contractor abuse. If I had more clear information on who exactly to point the blame to on this one would have won this award, because it's not acceptable ever for a game company to abuse their own employees, even if it's just their own contractors.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure if this is something where it's just a few bad individuals within the company, if it's individuals within the contractor company. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. I only know that there are allegations that Nintendo has been mistreating its contractors, or that their contractors rather have been mistreated. If I had more information, this definitely would have been the top. I just want to make it clear, I'm not trying to downplay that one. That's really bad.
Okay, so who won this award?
Who won? Well, Nintendo won, obviously. But the question they are asking is,
biggest blunder?
What is their biggest blunder? So, Nintendo's biggest blunder in 2022 is Nintendo and Panda Global forced Smash World Tour to shut down. I'm just going to give a quick rundown for those who aren't familiar. Both Panda Global and Smash World Tour host a yearly Super Smash Bros. Tournament. And the Smash Bros. Community has it's grown in size over the years. It's flourished. It has gotten this healthy competitive community, but it's always been a community that Nintendo has not very well supported. There was some hope that Nintendo's gotten better about this in recent years, but they've always been really iffy about supporting this community. That's fine. They don't need to support their communities as much as we wish that they would.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that apparently, according to Smash World Tour, Nintendo had been giving them false assurances for the last year or so, letting them know that they weren't going to be forcing them to stop their tournament. That yes, they're not endorsing their tournament, but they're not going to tell them that they can't do it. And then Nintendo signed an exclusive deal with Panda Global and told Smash World Tour in very fuzzy language that, well, we're not telling you not to do your tournament, but if you do, you're going to face the consequences.
Wow.
And that's not even the worst part. Smash World Tour was like, okay, I guess we got to shut down our tournament now, which really sucks because a lot of people already made plans to attend this, already got plane tickets and stuff. You know, they couldn't have told us beforehand that they were going to pull this on us. No, they're telling us way late into the game that they're going to do this just to screw with everyone. But that's not even the worst thing. When Smash World Tour came out about this, Nintendo made this absurd claim, like, well, we didn't technically tell them that they couldn't do this. You know, despite that it's very clear that the implication was, if you continue to hold this tournament, we will likely sue you for holding this. It's disgusting, it's two-faced, and it's manipulative, it's really abhorrent, and they have basically given the finger to their fan community.
The next category I am most curious about. The next category is the worst game.
Well, I suppose there's no need to introduce this one further, huh?
So who are the runner-ups?
The runners-up for worst game are Faith and Shield Tower Defense Space Wars Game 2022.
Ugh. Okay.
Farm Tycoon.
Mm-hmm.
Pendula Swing.
Mm-hmm.
Robbie's Adventure. And Game of Dragons.
Who won or lost?
Yeah, I suppose it depends how you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So the winner or loser, however you look at it, of worst game on Nintendo Switch in 2022 is Vaziel Saga XX.
Okay.
I've already talked a bit about this one, but yeah, it's the same complaint. They released a full-priced game on the eShop without bothering to localize it. It's an old game, it's an ugly game, and it's going to be literally unplayable for the overwhelming majority of people in the West who are looking at this game thinking, well, maybe, I don't know. And it would be one thing if they just outright said in the header, hey, this is Japanese only. I mean, that wouldn't be great, but at the very least, they'd be upfront about it. No, they hid this one toward the end of the profile. They're trying to trick people into buying a game that they cannot play. And that's outright despicable.
All right, so that's all today for day 3. Please be sure to keep checking back throughout the week as we continue to announce more awards.
Later.